want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 476th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Now, one of these days, it's going to be me saying in the flesh, and he says me.
Just to confuse everybody.
Just to confuse everybody. Okay, this is all material that comes from my blog. I go out every day I get up every day, get up early in the morning every day, and go through the news looking for energy and climate change material, and it all goes up on my blog. You can go to my blog, geoharvey.com. We will tell you what days we're working on, and you can click on the calendar for that day and look through usually 15 items to find the stuff that you find interesting. There's some really good stuff this week.
There usually is.
Really?
Well, what I was just going to say is what we're looking at here is the best of the blog.
Yeah, but this...
And some of them are good. I'm going to try and call them to your attention.
That thing about BP in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay. And you can go, and I'm going to say, let's see if I get it right. Down there, I got it right. You might be able to find a file for the show, the blog post that Tom and I use as a script, or you might find a link to the script where you can actually
click on that.
Click on the show on these things to be able to read them.
Well, some of them, as you've already mentioned, some of these are very
amazing,
well done and in depth.
Yeah.
And if you've got the time to read them, because some of them are very long.
Some are long.
I'll try to alert you to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget.
That's right. There's two of us, so we
I
usually
forget one thing this week, and you forget the same thing next week.
That's how it works.
Something like that.
Things only go wrong when we both forget, and it's not old age. When I forget things, I tell people it's not old age. I remember when I was 13, spending half an hour looking for a pencil I was holding in my left hand. Okay.
It's like the airplane with the recording, and they say that you're making history. This is the first totally automated airplane. It's all done by a computer. Nothing can go wrong. Go wrong. Go wrong.
Okay. Well, let's start up. Our first item. We have a picture here.
Is that a picture that we're looking at?
It's a picture, and now the audience can look at it too. That is a nodding donkey, also known as a pump jack.
We've never shown a picture of a pump jack.
No, we haven't. Before. And that one happens to be in West Texas.
That's what it says.
That's what it says. Anyway, this is from CNN, and Tom has a title.
Energy Week number 476.
Let's see. Title for the...
Oil and gas companies likely underreporting methane emissions. And leaks. They wouldn't do a thing like that.
No. The amount of methane major oil and gas companies are emitting in the Permian Basin, which is West Texas, which is why that picture was from West Texas, is likely to be significantly higher than official numbers they are reporting to the EPA, according to a report by the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Meanies.
Well, methane... just a couple of background checks.
Yeah.
It's a main component of natural gas.
Yeah.
It has more than 80 times the planet warming power in the near term of carbon dioxide.
Right.
Because of its shorter lifespan and its outsized warming potential, reducing methane emissions is the most effective way to quickly limit global warming.
Yep. And I was reading about, I think we may talk about it next week. There's space thing where they found and a satellite imagery shows the worst methane leak ever.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that.
90 tons a day.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Methane
that?
is lighter than air.
Yeah, and 90 tons a day. What do you
90
suppose the
tons.
value of a ton of methane is? That's a lot of
More than 50
money.
cents for sure.
Huh?
More than 50 cents.
Yeah, more than 50 cents. Okay.
Well, the U.S. has millions of abandoned oil and gas wells. We've talked about this on the
We
show.
have indeed.
Last year, the Biden administration passed funding to clean up orphan wells on state and federal lands.
Right.
Because they just walk away. They're finished. They got
Well,
the oil out.
they go out of
walk
business.
away.
They go out of business.
go out
They
of
go
business.
broke.
Well,
Nobody
they go
can.
bankrupt, you know.
Yeah, nobody can afford to cap a well if they don't have any money. So
And meanwhile, they're doing the same thing somewhere else.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's move along here. We
Okay,
got
our
a nice
next
picture of a
item is
solar
from
field.
Quartz, and we have a picture of a solar plant in Telangana, which Tom will tell you, by the way, is a place in India. I know that
It
Tom
is
will-
that.
You see, I told you he was
It is
going to say
that.
that.
Well, the article says that. And I'll tell you how it says it right now.
Okay.
Investments in India's renewable energy sector increased 125% in 1 year.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about that is it's easy to increase 125% in 1 year if you start at $1.25. But they aren't starting at $1.25. They're starting with a lot of money. Okay, in the financial year ended March 31st, 2022, a record $14.5 billion was poured into India's renewable and new energy industry as investments are up 125% from the previous year, according to an Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis report.
The acronym is IEFA.
IEFA. There you
And
go.
IEFA believes that what they're doing isn't enough to meet India's target of adding 400 gigawatts
Yeah.
in renewable energy generation capacity by 2030. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay.
That's huge.
India needs about US $40 billion annually to meet this target, which is more than doubling the current level of investment.
So they're going to have to go up another 100%.
Yeah.
And then some.
Double.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We have a picture of a
Another
traffic
picture
jam.
here.
And I don't know where that traffic jam
Well,
is.
it's not in the U.S. because the license plates are wrong.
The license plates are long.
Well, they're wrong, but they're long. Yeah, they're long,
Okay.
skinny license
I
plates.
don't see any license plates.
Well, right.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, there's a few you can see, and they're
Yeah.
just different shape than our license
They're a different
plates.
shape, yeah. This is
I
from,
would guess it's in the U.K.
That's a one-way street. It could be almost anywhere.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, this
And
is
there's
from
not
CNN.
enough information to tell you what language the signs are in.
Yeah.
But we'll
CNN.
move along.
Yes.
That's called traffic, by the way.
That's called traffic. It is. CNN. What do you got for a title, Tom?
EU lawmakers support banning gasoline car sales by 2035.
Amazing. Members of the European Parliament voted to ban the sale of new combustion engine cars by 2035 in what would be one of the world's strongest laws to phase out gasoline vehicles. To go into effect, the measure has to be debated and approved by the European Council.
Well, the European Union is the world's third biggest polluter.
Yeah.
The UK, which is no longer in the EU, announced last year that it would ban sales of new gasoline and diesel cars starting in 2030. Okay, so it's coming, guys.
It is.
It's coming. You can buy a gas car now, but you're not going to be able to buy it for
Not
long.
for long. And, again, what happens when, there's going to be people who say, I want to keep driving this car.
Like me.
As the demand for gasoline goes down, this is the way I think of it, other people don't. As the demand for gasoline goes down, the price will go up. That's the opposite of what the laws of market.
Well, there are going to be
generally
some
say.
people that are going to say, I'm never going to get one of them damn things.
Yeah, that's right.
I should have said darn.
The price of gasoline will go up, and the reason it'll do that is because
Supply and demand.
the cost of of maintaining the infrastructure for manufacturing the gasoline will not go down. And
So the cost of manufacturing gasoline automatically will be going up.
Will be going up because it's going to be less gasoline.
So as I'm fond of saying, it's the economic soup.
That's right. Okay.
Friday, June 10th, coming right up.
There you go.
Nice picture of a fire.
Yes, a picture of a fire. This is from CNN.
That's the Calf Canyon fire on May 10th, so that's very current.
It is, and actually...
Not a nice fire.
Yeah, and the fire is actually one of the ones that we're talking about in the story, although this particular fire, the picture was taken a month before, so this fire has probably burned out the entire area that we're looking at by now.
Well, the article says that the Black Fire becomes New Mexico's second largest fire in the state's history.
This is one that caught me, and I didn't understand it. I actually had to read a bit of it to say, what is going on here? Okay, let me read this. 2 wildfires, the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire, just northwest of Santa Fe, and the Black Fire in the Gila National Forest are both burning at the present time. Each, by itself, is larger than the Whitewater Baldy Fire of 2012, which held the record. So there was a record that was set in 2000, 10 years ago, and both of these fires, each of them individually, broke that record.
Well, with over 318,000 acres burned, and it's got to be more than that by now, the Hermit's Creek Calf Canyon fire is the largest fire in New Mexico history.
Yeah.
The Black Fire, with 298,440 acres burned, is now the second largest. And the 2 fires are happening simultaneously.
At the same time.
And only expected to get bigger.
Just imagine what it's like to be a firefighter in New Mexico these days.
Well, fires have consumed more than 600,000 acres of combined forest lands, which is about the size of Rhode Island. Okay, it's bigger than Brattleboro.
It's certainly bigger than Elliott Street. Okay, should we go on?
Well, fire conditions have been worsened by an abnormally dry and windy spring.
Abnormally dry and windy, which was what they had last year and the year before.
Have created a tinderbox across the region. It's not just happening
everywhere except Yellowstone. We'll get to Yellowstone in a few minutes.
Well, we got a nice picture coming up here.
We do indeed.
Boat.
And this is a boat. Believe it or not, there it is. It's not in the water. It's the only part of it. Well,
if you can look at it, it's sitting on something like pontoons that are under the water.
Well, they aren't. They're almost like wings that are down there.
They call them foils.
This is from CleanTechnica.
Artemis, the company, puts the electric foil concept to work.
Artemis, which is based in Belfast, launched its world first commercially viable electric foil workboat. It can cut through waves as well as at well over 30 knots and cover up to 60 nautical miles per charge. 30 knots is significantly faster than 30 miles an hour. I think it's about 35
something like,
or 38.
Yeah, not as bigger than a mile.
Yeah, yeah.
A nautical mile is bigger than a mile.
Yeah, it's 6,080 feet as opposed to 5,280 feet.
Oh, thank you.
I love the English system. I just love the English system. And if you want to know what the English system is really like, just pay attention to money. Okay? A farthing is a quarter of a penny. A penny is a quarter of a groat. Now, most English people, even old people like me, don't know that. A groat is a third of a shilling. A shilling,
very logical, isn't it?
Shilling is half of a florin, or if you want to look at it this way, a fifth of a crown.
Oh,
now 2 crowns in the old system makes a mark, and 4 crowns makes a pound. That means that a pound is 20 shillings or 240 pence. But if you're going to quote prices that are high, you don't quote in pounds. You quote in what was it? 21 shillings.
Is it a guinea?
A guinea. That's what it is. You quote in guineas. And that's the way the English system works. And if you want to look at all lengths and all the times and all the, you name it.
Well, it's funny because last night I was listening to Vermont Public Radio.
Yeah.
And they were talking about just that.
Were they? Yeah, but the thing is, when you look at a circle, 360 degrees, they tried to divide that into 100 degrees. It didn't work.
Didn't work, yeah.
Yeah, and there are reasons for that. But let's get back to this. Anyway,
this boat is a high-tech, low-drag speedster.
Yeah.
That's putting other boats to their toughest opponent yet.
Yep.
Capitalism. Artemis, the company, reckons that operators can look forward to up to 90% savings in energy costs.
90% savings.
To combustion engine workboats.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we must go on.
Let us go.
Oops.
Got a nice,
we go.
Picture there of
transmission lines. This is from PV Magazine Australia.
New South Wales announces $1.2 billion investment in renewable energy.
And by the way, that's $1.2 billion Australian, which is
a little bit less than...
It's less than $1 billion American. The New South Wales government announced that its single biggest investment yet in renewable energy infrastructure, including $1.2 billion to fast-track priority transmission and energy storage projects as the energy sector continues its rapid transformation.
Well, the state government wants to see at least 12 gigawatts of renewable energy and 2 gigawatts of energy storage development projects developed before 2030 to fill the gap created by the retirement of coal generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's what's going on.
Yep.
Wind and solar are making the plants uneconomic. Okay?
Yeah.
Early closures will cause problems for the grid if the capacity is not replaced.
The price of electricity all over Australia, with the exception of the Australian Capital Territory and South Australia, but the rest of the country,
it's very high.
It's going up like crazy. And the reason is because coal is uneconomical. And they're heavily dependent on uneconomical coal.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got investments in coal and are proving uneconomical, and they don't know what to do about it.
Well, there's an obvious solution, which is to do what the Australian Capital Territory and South Australia did, which is put in a lot of renewable energy.
Well, they're saving money. Everybody else is costing money.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, when a coal-burning power plant goes down, I have seen the price of electricity go from $65 per megawatt hour to over $1,000 per megawatt hour in 5 minutes.
That's instantly. I was going to say instantly as a joke, but it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and then it takes it hours and hours and hours and hours to get back down again. But that's just because one coal-burning power plant tripped. Crazy. Anyway.
Well, among the first projects to be financed in this tender will be the Waratah Super Battery, which will be the largest standby network battery in the Southern Hemisphere. So they got storage going on, too.
It won't be forever. We're going to be talking about stuff that dwarfs that in the not very distant future.
Another picture coming up.
We have a picture of a canal.
This is an interesting picture.
Yeah, it is.
This is an interesting picture.
This is in PV Magazine India.
And it says Canaltop Solar Solutions. Now, why didn't I think of that?
Canaltop Solar was pioneered in India a decade ago with Canaltop Solar Array in Gujarat. There are now findings from the University of California and the resulting Project Nexus that shine attention on a symbiotic application, saving water.
It is symbiotic, absolutely.
Yeah, while generating solar energy without occupying arable land. Yeah. There you go. Nobody's going to use that land over that canal for much purpose except for a solar array. And
well, it's just sitting there, and they put the panels up, so they got the generating revenue from the panels.
They reduce
less water is evaporating.
Right. and there it is. Okay. I think we should probably...
Well, not occupying land that would otherwise be occupied.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like free land.
Now, here is an interesting picture. Let me put it up there. This is a picture of a place called Rocket and Tigerly. That's what it's called. And this is from CNN.
World's tallest timber residential tower to be built.
Now that picture, by the way, is a picture of the Rocket and Timberley, which is, the tower is part of
this. Is not a photograph, it's a drawing.
Why don't you put it back up so that people can see while we're, you don't see the tower in that picture. The tower is
tower is huge.
The tower is very tall. It's
100 some stories.
It's 100 meters.
100 meters.
Which is 328 feet, which I think would probably translate into 30 or more stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a nice picture in the article.
Yeah, go to the article.
Of the tower.
The world's tallest timber residential building is said to be built in Switzerland. The project, named Rocket and Tigerly, will consist of 4 buildings, including one that boasts a 100-meter tall, that is 328 feet tall, tower. The development will be built in the Swiss city of Winterthur, which is near Zurich.
Well, this 100-meter tall tower will replace a concrete core with wood.
Yeah.
It is expected to be ready for residents to move in by 2026.
Now, it's important to note here that by using wood instead of concrete and steel, they are reducing the amount of carbon emissions.
Oh, yeah.
In building it, and using the wood sequesters the carbon that's in the wood.
Well, yeah.
So
there's an interesting picture in the article of the tower.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this thing is tall and skinny.
Absolutely. I would have included that picture in the slides that we're seeing, except for one thing, which was that it was tall and skinny. So you'd
weren't seeing very much.
Yeah, it was not a good picture for a TV screen.
Well, if you can picture that building in the back and imagine it rising up in the air about 10 times.
Yeah. Okay. So
there was interesting pictures of the tower, by the way.
It's beautiful. The pictures in this, also the interiors. There were good interior pictures. All right. Our next item is a horrible. Whoops. What are we doing? Oh, I went to the wrong one.
Yeah, we got the right one.
There it is.
That's a Shell EV charging area.
This is an interesting picture because anyway, this is from CleanTechnica, and you have a title.
Biden's national EV charging plan emphasizes standards, interoperability, and rural access.
Interoperability. I don't think I've ever seen that word before. The Biden administration proposed...
You're going to tell us what it means.
I think people can guess. Proposed a new program entitled the National Electric Vehicle Charging Network. The program will be used to provide a minimum of 4 fast chargers every 50 miles along a major transportation corridors. Now, that picture, the picture of the Shell station, I don't know how many charging places there are there.
Looks like a lot.
There's a lot. And if you look in the back...
Looks like about 20.
Yeah. If you look in the back of the picture, you see that there's a little store back there. And that, I think, is going to change the way we approach travel. Because...
How is that?
Well, you drive until you need to charge your car, and then you go into one of these charging places, and
while it's charging, you go get yourself a cup of coffee.
That's right, and a sandwich, and that's what you're doing. And, if it takes 15 minutes or half an hour, of course they're working.
Well, that's going to come way down.
Oh yeah, they're working on shorter and shorter times. But I think that travel is going to be changed a little. Oh, we are up to Sunday, June 12th, and now
we're still talking about this one.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is interesting because the chargers will be required to serve the needs of all drivers.
Yes.
Regardless what electric car they're driving.
Yes.
Right now, everybody's got their own solution.
Yes.
There's no universal plug. They must not require a membership or service fee to use.
Yes.
Okay. And they must provide clear information about the cost of charging up front.
Yeah.
Now, reading between the lines, people have been taking advantage of this. I
think that's a possibility.
The EV charging plan is similar to the interstate highway program that began in the 1950s and transformed how Americans traveled and how goods were delivered.
Yes.
I mean, it really did.
Yes.
And that program has repaid its investment 100 times over by increases in commerce,
I had never thought of that.
powering America's economic growth for the past 70 years.
Yeah. And I hear, well,
And there's another little takeaway here. The interstate highway system had a federal requirement to build rest areas,
yes.
okay? And that put American long-distance driving into high gear.
Yeah, I did. And you know, we used to drive from Illinois to New Hampshire many summers, not every summer. And
But there was no place to stop.
well, the thing is, the interstates opened up while we were doing this.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden, you know, we'd be in Indiana, and in Indiana it was a Howard Johnson's every 35 miles or something like that. And we
37 and a half.
Was it? Wow. And, you know, the kids in my family all realized very quickly that we just loved fried clams. We wanted to go to Howard Johnson's. Okay.
Well, this requirement to build rest areas changed our way of driving long distance.
Yeah, it did.
It made it possible to drive from New York to Chicago.
Yeah. And you know, as I said, we would go from Illinois to New Hampshire, and it was usually Illinois to Eastern Ohio the first day. The second day would be Eastern Ohio to New Jersey, where we had relatives, and the third day, New Jersey to New Hampshire. Okay, we've got an item from CleanTechnica.
Got a picture coming up here.
Picture of a Tesla charging station.
Is that what that is? Looks like a gas pump.
Well, except that you can see through it.
Can't see through gas pumps.
No, not usually. Okay.
Well, Tesla's 35,000th supercharger is a milestone for EV charging.
Yeah, and this tells you something too. Tesla keeps expanding its supercharger network. Tesla China has announced Tesla's 35,000th supercharger, a milestone for EV charging. Excuse me. The supercharger opened in Wuhan, China. Tesla China noted that Tesla owns the largest fast charging network in the world.
For what it's worth, Wuhan, China is a pretty big town.
Is a pretty big town.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's almost as big as Shanghai.
But it strikes me that China is just running away with all the prizes on this.
Well, it kind of looks like it. Tesla is continuing to expand its supercharger network.
Yeah.
Last month, they opened a network in several European countries to non-Tesla owners,
Right.
which is a biggie.
Yep.
Tesla's goal is to open the network as a means of encouraging more drivers to switch from fossil fuel vehicles
Well,
to EVs.
that's what Elon Musk was doing at the beginning. The whole purpose of Tesla was to ditch
all
fossil
of
fuels.
Tesla's own cars are EVs.
All of the cars are EVs. That's correct.
If the testing in Europe gives Tesla the results it wants, we'll soon see Tesla superchargers in the U.S. open up to non-Tesla EVs.
Right. Okay.
It's progress. It's inevitable.
Now we have an
We got a
item
very nice picture here.
from Morocco World News. I think this might be the first item we've had from Morocco World News.
I would not bet against that.
You know, with 476 shows, multiply that by 21, and that's the number of items we've had. So we're getting toward 10,000 items or something that we've talked about. And Morocco World News, I think I would remember that.
That's the first. That's another first.
Okay.
Well, that is Mount Kilimanjaro,
That's right, with
which
snows on
happens
it.
to be the highest mountain in Africa.
Yes,
It's 19,341 feet.
which is a good
More
deal
than several.
more than I want to climb. I'm
And
too
it
out of
says here, as I quote, Africa turns to China for renewable energy investments.
Again, we're back with China, with Africa attracting only 2% of global renewable energy investments. The continent is aspiring to increase its installed capacity, but it needs capital. China is among the countries Africa is turning to. Man, this is the spelling in this thing that I'm reading is awful. As its countries seek to reach Sustainable Development Goals. AFRICIA, Africa.
Africa.
That's what it says.
Is it Africa or Africa?
I don't know.
An African Chinese alliance provides a win-win situation for both parties.
Yeah, we hope.
Okay. With the Asian economic giant, that's China, providing the know-how and capital to produce different green energy solutions, and Africa providing a growing market for renewable energy investments.
Yep.
It's a marriage made in heaven.
Well, we would hope. Unfortunately, every once in a while, when I see that China is putting money into something, I start to think that maybe there's a little bit of a con going on here.
They wouldn't do a thing like that.
No. Okay, I think I should escape from that. Let's go to the next item.
A nice picture here. Let's get this picture up.
There you go. This is a Skoda Enyaq.
Is that what it is? It looks like it has a grill, but it's not.
I thought an Enyaq was a computer in the old days. Go ahead.
Well, in the Netherlands, 32% of new cars sold are now plug-in cars.
This is from CleanTechnica. CleanTechnica publishes these things very, very regularly. It's very common to go to CleanTechnica on any given day and see that they have an accounting of how sales of electric cars.
That's what this article was. It was all lists of cars.
How that's doing in some country or other. This is the Netherlands. The Netherlands were very slow in picking up electric cars, and here we have, in the context of a falling overall market, down 7% year over year in May, the Dutch plug-in vehicle market has continued to grow, reaching 32% last month. That's mostly thanks to pure electrics, 21% of all new vehicle sales, which jumped 48% year over year last month. The Netherlands had poor sales of plug-in vehicles until a couple of years ago. And then all of a sudden the market just changed.
Well, they describe plug-in vehicles. Okay?
Yeah.
They include pure electric battery vehicles,
yes,
which are BEVs.
Yes.
Okay, and plug-in hybrid vehicles,
right,
which have two engines.
Yep.
You know, they got a gas engine and there's various iterations of that. In some cases, you can only use one engine at the time.
Yeah.
In some cases, you can use both engines.
Well,
weird.
The last car I had was a Prius, which was not a plug-in vehicle. It was a 2001 Prius.
Uh-huh.
One of the first ones in this country, you know. But I mean, first, it was like, mine was probably the 40,000th. But
it wasn't a plug-in.
It was not a plug-in. But the point is, it would run on the gas engine. It would run on the electric engine motor. It would run on both simultaneously.
Engines, right?
And the only time you didn't have the two of them interacting was when you were in reverse. If it was if it was in reverse, it always did it just on electric.
Well, you don't drive backwards a lot. At least most people
not
don't.
A lot. Yeah. Okay.
Most people don't.
Should we go on?
Yeah, we got an interesting picture coming up here.
This picture I love.
It looks like a nice little place, doesn't it?
It does. And you know, in England, and this is something that I realized when I was there, and I lived in England, man, it was 60 years ago.
Wow.
The English, if they had a house that was 15 feet wide in a thing of row houses, they would take great pride in the 5-foot-long garden that they had out front. And,
well, it looks like they did that in this.
In this place, they have a nice big garden here. And
when I first looked at the picture, I thought all those flowers in the front of the picture were logs.
Were logs. Okay.
How to turn your garden into a carbon sink.
Yep. As leaders in government and companies race to reduce their emissions, there is a greater interest in natural landscapes such as forests, wetlands, and mangroves. Mangroves in England, that would be an interesting thing.
We're showing some pictures of mangroves on this show.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they grow in England, but you never can tell. I will tell you about that in just a second. Protecting against the risks of climate change, horticulturalists say humble gardens can serve as powerful tools in this fight. When I lived in Devon, which is in England, this is in southwestern England.
That's Cornwall, isn't it?
Very southwest is Cornwall, but the next county to the east is Devon. Devon is a big county. Uh-huh. And we lived in Devon, and we had in the yard around the house, we had a pine tree, which I think was probably not native.
I don't think pines are native.
We had holly
okay.
in a tree. We had bamboo.
That's not native to England either.
I don't think so. But you know, if you went down to the coast, on the south coast of England, they have
pretty warm down
there. They
there.
have scorpions.
They have cactus too.
Do they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Another thing, and the scorpions are not native, but one thing that they do have, and it is native, and I have seen it, is palm trees.
That's interesting.
They don't look like palm trees in Hawaii.
But they are palm trees.
They are palm trees. Yeah,
You see something
they're stumpy
similar to
little,
that in Ireland.
stumpy little palm trees.
Southern Ireland's got palm trees.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, we should go on.
Well, this is about wild lawns, okay?
Yeah.
We need to put up with scruffy lawns.
Scruffy lawns.
If left alone, lawns could become thriving wildlife hotspots.
Yeah.
An estimated 23% of urban land is covered by lawns.
Which don't do anything for climate change except make it worse.
Well, it says leaving the lawnmower in the shed benefits the climate.
Yeah, even if it's a pusher mower.
Well, this is interesting. Operating a gas lawn mower for an hour releases as much pollution as driving for 100 miles.
Well, think about it. Next time next time your spouse says or your parents say or something, mow the lawn, you just quote
Mosey lawn.
Quote that statistic.
Mosey lawn.
Mosey lawn.
I got a whole bunch of notes on this article that would take up the rest of the show if I read them all.
They probably would.
Well,
Okay.
peat bogs have accumulated over millennia. We've talked about
We
peat
have
bogs.
talked about peat bogs.
Not all ponds act as carbon sinks.
Yeah.
Small ponds can emit methane.
Well, you know, as I think about it, the idea of converting a lawn into a peat bog is attractive from a climate point of view, but I'm not sure the neighbors would like it.
Well, they might object a little bit, yes, especially
They would think that your peat bog was allowing mosquitoes to grow, but mosquitoes don't grow in peat bogs.
Is that so?
Nothing grows in peat
Nothing
bogs
grows in peat
except
bogs.
peat. Okay, we should move on.
Yeah, you got an
Tom.
interesting picture coming up.
Here you go. Here's the picture. And this is from CleanTechnica.
That bear could care less.
Well,
He's more interested in the photographer.
this is, bears are not, they're not very pleasant to get into conversations with.
I hit a bear about that size once
You hit one?
with a car. Yeah.
Oh, no. What did you do to the car?
Well, I was in the jungle there in the backwoods of Vermont, and so I was going slow.
Oh, okay.
And that bear picked himself up, shook himself off, and took off like I didn't know bears could move.
They're very fast.
He just went quickly.
Okay. What do you got for a title?
Electric America's Foundation is filming a documentary driving the Pan American Highway in 2 Tesla EVs.
This is kind of like that thing that we were doing last week where we were talking about a guy who was going to drive from the North Pole to the South Pole.
This repeats that.
They're going to use the same highway, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. This article refers to that one.
Yeah. The founders of Electric America Foundation will drive from Alaska to Patagonia. That's a name you don't hear a lot. Using Tesla EVs, unless you're in Argentina, filming a documentary about their drive. The trip will cover 20,000 miles in 7 months, if all goes according to plan.
Well, I just said 20,000 miles in 7 months, which is going to end in December of this year.
Okay.
Okay? They will be driving the Pan American Highway,
Yep.
which starts in Alaska and ends in Patagonia.
Yep.
It's the world's longest motorable road. Okay? One challenge was finding a place to charge an EV.
I believe it. Okay. Go on.
Well, road tripping in an EV is more affordable than doing it in a traditional gas vehicle.
Well, that I believe.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We have an article from CNN here and a picture
Interesting picture here. There's a parachutist in the middle of
There
that.
is indeed. This is a picture of Fiji.
Of who?
Fiji.
Fiji.
Yeah.
Well, Fiji says Asia's biggest security threat is climate change, not conflict. Well, it is.
Especially if you're in Fiji. Fiji defense minister said climate change posed the biggest security threat in the Asia-Pacific region, a shift in tone at a defense summit dominated by the war in Ukraine and disputes between China and the United States. Low-lying Pacific islands like Fiji are especially vulnerable to climate change.
That's just what I was going to say. Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, some of the most vulnerable countries in the world to extreme weather events. And the single greatest threat to our very existence is climate change. It threatens our very hopes and dreams of prosperity. That's a quote from this guy, what is his name?
I don't see it.
I don't see it either. I had it. We know his name, but I didn't write it down.
Okay. We have an article now from CleanTechnica and a picture of a neighborhood in San Francisco, which is there. That looks like a nice neighborhood, doesn't
it? Does. Looks, those buildings on the left, they look just like some buildings right here I drove by coming in here. From the same era.
Yes, indeed. Okay, what do you got for a title?
California is reaching 100% renewable energy at times.
Yeah, this is kind of exciting. In early April, California achieved a new record of 97.6% renewable power. And on the 2nd of May, the state was able to reach 99.9%. On May 8th...
It's all renewable.
Yeah, on May 8th, the record was broken again with 103% of the state's...
more than they were using.
Yeah, which meant that they were exporting.
Exporting something, yep.
Of the 103% of the state's power needs being met by renewables for a few hours.
Well, as Earth Month drew to a close, and I didn't know it was Earth Month.
Okay.
The state of California was recently able to produce all of their energy needs from renewable sources.
Yes.
Okay. There is still work to be done.
Yes.
California must still rely on fossil fuels to meet its energy demands, which have increased 20-fold since 2019. That sounds like a lot.
What has increased 20-fold?
Well, I guess it's fossil fuel.
Energy demands.
According to this, it's energy demands.
Well, I think there's, I don't know, I'd have to think about that. But, you know, it's interesting to see. California is just growing renewable energy more and more and more. Now
it's not happening fast enough.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to say. Solar and wind projects will need to be built 3 times faster, and battery storage expansion will need to be developed 8 times faster.
Right. And that's one of the things that a lot of people miss is that, you know, here in Vermont, close to 100% of our electricity is renewable, and I think 100% of it is emissions free.
Well, it's mostly hydro.
It's mostly hydro. We do get a little electricity from...
We get a lot of the hydro from Canada.
Seagate nuclear plant. But most of our electricity is from renewables. The thing is, the amount of electricity we're using is going to have to go up because we're going to have to convert to electric cars.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're going to have to convert to electric heat.
Well, everybody. This applies to everybody.
Absolutely.
Not just Vermont.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, people in Vermont, a lot of people that I've talked to have just been kind of, well, you know, we're done with that. We don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm sorry.
Ain't the case.
We do have to worry about it more. Okay. Should we go on?
Well, I think we should. We got a picture coming up here. And what does it say? It says it's a power outage.
Yeah, this is from...
You can look at the apartment houses there, and there's no lights in any windows.
That picture, by the way, I believe is from Russia. But the article is ABC, which is the Australian.
It came from a guy named Alexander Popov, so you could be right.
This is from ABC, which is Australian Broadcast Company.
Australian ABC. What is load shedding, and why is it a sign that Australia's largest electricity market is in crisis?
Right. And this, I thought, was a really interesting article.
It is very interesting.
When demand for electricity exceeds capacity, so more electricity is needed than the grid can supply, The most extreme tool is load shedding, shutting down areas, the power to areas for a time. A cold snap, which was going on at the time this article appeared in Australia, because it's winter there, or almost winter there, with several large coal-burning power plants offline, threatens Eastern Australia with load shedding.
Well, load shedding means blackouts.
Yeah.
Okay, and that scares the heck out of me.
And the problem here is they had a bunch of coal plants that were down for maintenance.
Yep.
And then they had coal plants that just tripped. And they,
They had hot weather, didn't they? Or was it cold weather?
It was cold weather.
Yeah.
Because
they had unusual weather.
They're coming into winter.
Well, electricity is about supply and demand.
Right.
Supply of electricity has to match demand almost perfectly.
Yes.
Okay. Margins of error are tiny.
Yeah. 0.5% is a lot.
Consequences of failure are serious.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many ways the operator can keep the system stable, but load shedding is the most extreme tool.
Yeah.
That means blackouts.
Yep.
In order to avoid circumstances where supply and demand become dangerously out of whack, the operator can cut power to big numbers of customers to restore balance.
Like an entire city all at once.
That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's what he's got to do.
He sheds the load.
And an alternative that comes, if you're getting close to that, is to have a brownout. But, brownouts mean that refrigerator compressor motors fail.
Burnout and stuff
like that. Yeah, you don't want that.
A brownout is, instead of getting 110 volts, you get like 90.
And that's a serious problem.
It's bad for motors.
Oh, man,
Very
it's bad for motors. You're better off with a blackout and just be honest about it. Okay.
We get an interesting picture here.
This is a picture of...
Is that... What are they?
Those are solar panels out in the desert.
Is that so?
Yeah, it is. And those ones are just laying flat, and I'm not sure...
Does not look like they track the sun.
Well, they may track in one dimension.
They may, but I don't see mechanism that looks like that tracks that.
I don't know.
They're just sitting there flat.
The fact of the matter is...
The sun comes up here, the sun goes down there, and all day long, the sun irradiates these things.
And if there are solar panels that are built to do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
this is a lot cheaper than the ones that track.
Oh, yes.
By the way, they make tracking panels right here in Vermont.
Yes, I know that. Yeah. This is from E&E News.
Well, the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, okays the construction of large California solar projects.
Now, these are large projects.
These are big.
The Interior Department gave notice that construction could proceed on 2 projects in the Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan area in California. The area includes 10.8 million acres of federal land.
That's bigger than Vermont and New Hampshire taken together.
Thank you for saying that. Already evaluated by the Obama administration in 2016. You're not going to have somebody who lives across the street saying, no, you can't do that. I don't like the way they look. Because nobody lives across the street.
Well, both projects would have a combined infrastructure investment of about $700 million.
Right.
Generate $6 million in annual operational economic benefit, is what it says, and support up to 1,000 construction jobs. A third project may also soon begin.
Okie dokie. Now, if you don't mind, we will go on to our next item.
Another picture here.
A picture of a Nikola truck, electric truck.
That's a Nikola, as opposed to, I think they spelled it wrong. Maybe not. Well, Nikola makes trucks.
Yes, that's right.
It's a new startup, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nikola gets a $185,000 incentive boost, and it's way ahead of Tesla.
Yeah, this is from CleanTechnica. Just weeks after announcing that early customers had begun taking delivery of Nikola's TRE, battery electric semi-trucks, the brand has announced that its trucks have officially qualified for massive incentives in the state of New York. The incentives can be worth up to $185,000 per truck.
That's a good incentive.
That's a lot. And, you know, they're not kidding around about this.
By the way, in this article, there's a good photo of the truck taken from above.
Yes,
where
that's
you can
right.
see the batteries.
Yes.
See it all laid out.
Yeah.
Well, in Tesla versus Nikola, Nikola is winning
In the truck market, yes.
in the truck market.
Yeah.
Tesla, which has set a number of deadlines for the launch of its Tesla semi-truck since it was first shown way back in 2017, has yet to deliver the 15 trucks that were promised to Pepsi-Cola in 2021.
Yeah.
So they're running behind.
Tesla is running behind. Nikola,
Kenworth, Mack, and Volvo, meanwhile, all have electric semis in the field.
Right.
So this is
They don't have
the
many
future.
of
This
them.
is happening now.
Yes, it is. They don't have many of them in the field, but we'll see how
They're
that
coming.
goes.
It's
Yes,
coming.
It is. Anything more on that?
Not really.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next one. The
We
next
have a
one's kind
picture of the
interesting.
Azure Sky wind farm. I don't think that's an Azure Sky there. What do you think?
I don't think it's too much Azure. No, it's a pretty picture, though.
It is a pretty picture.
Wind
Okay.
and solar power are bailing out Texas amid record heat and energy demand.
This is interesting. This is from CNN. Texans are cranking on air conditioners this week amid an unusually early heat wave, setting new records for electricity demand in the state. But the grid is holding up well, largely because solar and wind power are covering 40% of the demand. Oh, man.
Well, I
That's a
think
lot.
the Texas wind, whatever they call themselves, the grid,
Yeah.
are waking up.
ERCOT. It's
ERCOT.
called.
They were sitting back on their laurels smoking cigars or something like
Something. I don't know.
that. And they got caught with their pants down.
Yeah, and now it looks like they're benefiting. They were complaining. What was it? Was it a year ago, last winter, or was it last winter? I've forgotten. They had that horrible frost and everything shut down.
Everything's shut down. They weren't ready for anything.
But it was not the wind and solar that was causing the problem.
We've said that on the show.
Yeah.
We've talked about it.
And it was like natural gas was out, and they had 3 nuclear reactors in the state.
And they were out.
One of the 3 nuclear reactors was failing or failed because it was too cold for it.
How about that?
Yeah.
Renewables have helped keep costs low.
Yes.
Prices for natural gas and coal are high amid a worldwide energy crunch.
Man, we've
But,
got a problem.
they were talking about that on Vermont Public Radio today.
Yeah.
It's getting higher.
Yeah.
Okay? Renewables powered by the wind and sun have no fuel cost. Duh.
Really?
The price of wind and sunlight hasn't doubled in the past year like other resources.
You know, if somebody would try to figure out a way to charge for the wind and the sun. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah,
or-
we got a picture of Western Australia.
This is a picture of Western Australia.
Western Australia is pretty barren.
It is. And that picture actually was supplied by BP.
Ah, that's interesting.
Now, this is from Renews.
Well, BP in this case is British Petroleum.
That's correct.
It takes a stake in Oz, which is Australia, mega P2X project.
Yeah. The Australians love to call their country Oz.
Yeah, yeah.
BP agreed to take an equity stake and be the operator in the huge green hydrogen hub in Western Australia. We've talked about that, Tom.
Yes, we have.
A lot. BP has acquired a 40.5 stake in the Asian renewable energy hub. That's a big stake.
Well, they're looking at their near and far future, and they're saying this is good for us.
This hub will comprise 26 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, 14.5 gigawatts of wind, and 11.5 gigawatts of solar.
They're bigawatts, baby.
I was going to ask.
Bigawatts.
Plus 12.5 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity. 26 gigawatts of renewable energy is, I'm going to say, roughly the equivalent of 8 or 9 big nuclear power plants. This is
It's about that. Yeah.
not a trivial investment.
No, we're talking. Well, this hub, which will be built in the Pilbara region,
Yeah.
which is a large, dry, thinly populated region in the northwestern
Thinly
part.
populated?
Thinly. There's
I thought nobody
there.
lived there at all.
We've talked about Pilbara.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's in the middle of nowhere in the northwestern Australia.
It's in Western Australia. It's kind of like in the northwest
It'd be about
corner.
Oregon.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of equivalent to Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, BP will assume ownership when it opens. But
Yeah.
other partner share owners will be Intercontinental Energy,
Yes.
CWP Global, and Macquarie Capital Group. So the investors are getting in there.
Yeah, the investors are getting in there.
Well, Macquarie is a big Australian investing company.
Yes, it is. Very big.
The hub will supply renewable power to local customers in the largest mining region in the world. I didn't know it was that. And will also produce green hydrogen and green ammonia for export.
And the green ammonia is pretty easy to handle.
Yeah, it is.
It's, you can liquefy
You
it
can liquefy it.
at a reasonable pressure.
Right.
And hydrogen, you cannot put enough pressure on hydrogen to.
Well, they're developing that as we speak.
Well, what they are developing
come a long way.
They make it really, really cold.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Few degrees above absolute zero, and then what they do is they put it in a bottle, which is
that's inside of another bottle.
yeah. And this thing's pretty well insulated. Now, I'm not talking about little bottles. I'm talking about bottles.
Big bottles.
Big bottles.
Bigger than a hip flask.
Yeah, they're bigger than a house. But the thing is that what they do to keep it liquid is allow it to boil.
Is that so?
Yeah, and then of course they can take
So
the
in
hydrogen.
boiling, it's staying cold.
That's right, and so they can take that bit of hydrogen that's coming out and use it for fuel.
Use it for something, yeah.
For the ship that's traveling
yeah.
along or whatever. And that way they can deliver some hydrogen in liquid form to a place like Japan. And the Japanese are really interested in having fuel delivered to them in some form other than natural gas or coal.
Well, I'm sorry to say that we're run to the end.
We have run to the end. Here it is. We have a sign here that says, have a wonderfully comfy week.
And my sign says, Fini.
Fini. Okay. So we can say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Come back next time.
Come back and see us now, you hear?
That's right. See, I never say that because Tom does it better than I do.
Y'all come back and see us now, you hear?
That's right. Okay.